Oh, I hope those thighs are acceptable to Twitch. Oh God. Sorry. Lord. Let's get some Gatorade. A little better. Good morning. Afternoon. Gonna continue on this Jestworld thing. Mainly to test out this new voice. I made a bunch of voices last morning. I tried to create sing-songy ones. I'm sure they're all different in their own sing-songiness. It's just, yeah, let's try it. Last year, Dan Harmon made an appearance and made way too much presence of himself. Accidentally, but that's okay. He's up for it.
Episode 2, there is no I in human resources, but there are 2 US. You, the creative director, having finished hooking up a student with illicit stimulants and having negotiated the deal on camera in front of the whole student body and administrator, decide to double down on everything and ask into the microphone was the best practice. The rest of the students, the ones who had been forced to stay after class while everyone else was headed up, are watching through their cell phones as the administration's new policies begin being enforced. This means that if they miss too much school or get caught doing something bad, which now includes making jokes, then their parents might not be able to afford their tuition anymore, so therefore every single person sitting around needs to work harder than ever before, just in case any one of them happens to have missed a day of school today for whatever reason, even though none of you can think what those reasons could possibly be. Why would you want to make jokes? No, we aren't talking about whether or not it is appropriate to joke about rape culture, but rather how certain sorts of jokes are often used by...
Okay, we're gonna reset that, but also we're gonna use... I made 5 of these, so... of these female ones. So, let's go to the next one. That doesn't work. I don't like how it clips at the end. It's like... It makes for very hard listening. Doop. Alright, take 2.
Episode 2, there is no I in human resources, but there are 2 US. You, the creative director, having finished hooking up a student with illicit stimulants and having negotiated the deal on camera in front of the whole student body and administrator, decide to double down on everything and ask into the microphone was that best practice. You realize now that your biggest problem as an educator may be that you simply do not care as much about what people think as they seem to care about what you think, especially those who would rather stay in their offices playing games or sending emails instead of actually attending class. Your students, feeling more free than ever to act out in the classroom, throw popcorn at one another while screaming profanities in response to the words which had just come out of your mouth. As far as anyone can tell, this was the first time the school had seen a performance like this, and although it did not cause any permanent damage, it was clear that you were going to have a serious talk with all the young adults involved who seemed completely unaware that you'd even heard them speak.
Next. playing for the role of this. Alright, have at it.
Episode 2. There's no I in human resources, but there are 2 US. The creative director, having finished hooking up a student with illicit stimulants and having negotiated the deal on camera in front of the whole student body and administrator, decided to double down on everything and ask into the microphone was the best practice. This question gets shouted back at you in 100 different ways from students across the globe as soon as it starts trending online. So much so that within minutes you're looking for any excuse not to work anymore. And because you feel this way, you eventually give up trying to find your way out, instead opting to leave the school building altogether and therefore giving up control in order to make sure nothing will happen until everyone is done fighting. You walk along an empty city street toward the ocean where the sun has already set and there are no other cars anywhere to be seen, and although you still have all your senses, you start walking slower and feeling even more lost and lonely than you did before you walked inside to get started, and all at once it's like you can see
Try it again. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait.
Episode 2. There's no I in human resources, but there are 2 US. You, the creative director, having finished hooking up a student with illicit stimulants and having negotiated the deal on camera in front of the whole student body and administrator, decide to double down on everything.
Oh!
And suddenly a large beam of mauve-like bounced off the necklace and hit him straight in the face. What he didn't know was that was the alien. Being DLI is the same beam that got Philip K. Dick all those years ago. He is in store for a huge download of various information. This was probably going to work better than any other plan he'd considered, including asking somebody about his behavior who might report him or talk about him behind his back. If there was one thing he learned about himself, especially lately, it's that if you're too passive, you'll never do anything ever again.
Okay. Interesting.
Episode 2. There is no I in human resources, but there are 2 US. You, the creative director, having finished hooking up a student with illicit stimulants and having negotiated the deal on camera in front of the whole student body and administrator, decide to double down on everything and ask into the microphone was that best practice. The audience cheers. The students begin applauding and shouting their agreement over the din. You say, "How does this make me feel?" Laughter from the audience while wiping sweat from your forehead with a handkerchief. After all, you haven't been able to eat solid food for 4 days now. What happened was that you decided you'd try an experiment for a day, just for 1 day, and see what kind of effect it would have. It was not very well thought out. And so what if everybody was going around thinking they were doing it because they wanted to be nice or friendly? You needed more than niceness and friendliness. because even though these qualities could lead people to think they cared, they didn't actually care. They just acted as... They thought people expected them to act, and in turn, people ended up expecting others to behave like themselves. So there's only one way forward. No expectations. Or rather, expectations without expectation. Expectations without hope of achieving anything, but then suddenly being given whatever you asked for anyway. But there is a problem. Not everyone wants this. Some want things to stay exactly the same except with added excitement. Some will never believe you. Some simply won't listen. Some can't understand. Some need a little time before deciding. Some might take the wrong message from what you said or did. Some need the right encouragement to do what you told them to do, and many more such complications await those who dare to rethink the situation. This requires great courage, which is why most of us don't ever really start trying until we are ready to go through life at full speed ahead with no brakes, no seatbelts, no airbags, no steering wheel, no clutch, no dashboard gauges telling us whether we are on fire or about to crash into something, no other drivers, no rules, no cops, no witnesses, no jury, nothing standing between ourselves and total freedom, except perhaps our own reflexive reactions. So far, we have avoided all these complications by believing that nobody else has done what you're planning, except maybe Dan Harmon, but he's probably lying about it because of what happened earlier, and that therefore you must be alone in wanting to do this thing. The fact that so few people try this makes it sound much harder than it actually is. For instance, just because there aren't very many people around doing this doesn't mean it's any more difficult than 100 others doing the exact same thing. In an attempt to improve the atmosphere inside your office and your relationships with your coworkers, your manager suggests inviting a small group of them over to watch your favorite team play football. She says it would be nice if we could sit down together as friends. But you say, I think I would rather not spend my Saturday afternoon watching grown men run around hitting each other while they call themselves heroes. Maybe they feel heroic when they're running up and down the field chasing a ball that bounces up and down like a rubber duck, but in real life they just look like idiots. She laughs and tells you there are lots of things worth doing besides what you want to do and what you should do. You're thinking you'll just stay home on Saturday anyway. When your wife asks what you plan to do, you tell her, nothing, I'm going to lie here on the couch, drink beer, smoke cigarettes, eat pizza, and read trashy magazines. That's what we did last weekend too, remember? She looks at first, then smiles and says, I don't see what's so different about that, and kisses you goodbye at 6 p.m., leaving for work at 8:30. It takes you 3 hours to get out of bed, shower, dress, pack lunch, drive to the stadium, buy a ticket for yourself, find a seat, order some hot dogs and a soda, use a bathroom, and walk around looking for a place to stand that isn't covered with mud or dog poop before you realize you're late for work. The game is already starting. By the time you reach the door of the office, the cheerleaders are running across the field and the quarterback is waving to the crowd. You hear one of the players shout, That's right. That's what I'm talking about, baby. He jumps over a guy in uniform and runs past the end zone. Then you notice all the people standing in front of you holding a giant sign that says, Friends Forever. I thought we agreed we'd all be friends, your boss says as you come into the room carrying your lunch bag and the drinks. She says she wants everyone to sit down now and watch the game with you so they can get to know each other better and maybe have a little fun. She also tells you that she has arranged for everybody to receive a gift certificate to a local sports bar with the company. You are still feeling a bit put out from being told you were going to spend your Saturday watching football when you could have been doing something else, but you are curious about how your coworkers will react to her plan. They look at their watches, glance at her nervously, and then begin asking questions about why they're supposed to care about any of this, who picked up the table nose tickets, what kind of food they're going to eat at the bar after the game, chips and salsa. whether or not they should bring a camera or get ready to film it, where the nearest public restroom is. If anyone has ever heard a player say anything like that, does anyone want another drink? What team is playing? Is there an intermission? Is it true that every cheerleader in the league is bisexual? When you mention that you aren't really sure what bisexual means, I tell you it just refers to girls having sex with boys with no reference to men having sex with women, which seems too complicated to try explaining this since you don't think you'll understand everything anyway, let alone explain it, even though you'd love to. But your boss sees that things are getting a little tense. She smiles and says, "We can talk about all that later." It says instead that she'd like everyone to make themselves comfortable and enjoy some lunch and football together. Everyone nods and settles down. Some take their seats immediately and others remain standing until someone tells them otherwise. After a few minutes, your boss suggests they turn off their cell phones so they can focus more fully on the game. People complain about how noisy their devices keep being, but decide to put them away anyway so as not to interrupt the flow of the game. You woke up and called your mom. "I had a dream where I didn't know what bisexual was." "I know, bananas, right?" Your mother said, "I guess that's normal for your age." And you asked, "How do you know my age?" But she couldn't answer because her phone started ringing and then stopped before you could ask her any more questions, such as, "Are you still alive? Is there anyone who isn't dead? What would happen if you try calling the past?" Or any questions at all. The future is no help either, since it is already over by the time you have thought it up, and the present is unknowable anyway. It's been decided that we cannot tell the difference between knowing something is real, or only thinking it is true, and having absolutely no idea whether anything that happened ever actually took place. Check to see if you just did ketamine in the shower, and maybe listen to what people are talking about while waiting to fall asleep tonight. Your coworker pulls a notebook out of his bag, sits down next to you with a sigh, and starts writing a letter to someone, which he begins to read aloud to you. "Dear Pete, thank you so much for meeting me here today. I feel like $1,000,000. You're an amazing woman, not only beautiful but smart and talented and kind. A person like me could really learn a lot from your example. We've only spent a few hours together, but already I find myself craving the pleasure of your company. As we say back home, I don't want to wait around until we meet again. I think it would be best if I got." Say, "Hey, let me read that letter. You're fucking it up." But that's too harsh, isn't it? Especially after that compliment. Of course, you can keep reading. Please do continue, but later on when there is more room in this part of our discussion and less need for speed reading, because speed reading is bad. It doesn't help anyone remember what they've seen and heard better, and also makes them sound stupid, and believe me, everyone will be doing plenty of that anyway, and not just you. There are always people who talk louder than others, people who make lots of noise without saying anything useful, people who shout nonsense, people who try to take over the conversation, people who interrupt, people who get carried away, people who change their subject every time. Clarify to see if speed reading means fast cursory reading or reading on speed. Is your mind so full of useless information that even thinking about any of these things takes too long? Are you feeling especially nervous right now, or is something else wrong? Do you have a headache or chest pain? Do you know where you are and how you got here? Have you been eating well lately? How much sleep did you get last night? Did you binge drink or smoke weed recently? Or just leave me alone while I write my first post? You should stop making faces at me while I'm talking to myself. I thought I told you to stop writing with both hands, Jean. please stop writing with one hand and play with yourself with the other, please? Stop giggling, Miss Lisa. Why aren't you listening, miss? What? Lisa? Miss Lisa! Fuck off, fuck off, fuck off. Did you just call me a pussy? You fucking cunt. Where's your god when you need him, huh? You fucking piece of shit. Fucking motherfucking asshole.
Whoa,
fucking
whoa,
bitch.
hey, yeah, whoa.
You fucking idiot.
Hey.
You're fucking crazy.
Yeah, but
You're fucking insane.
okay.
You're fucking
Let's give me these nuts.
You're fucking fat.
Hey, you.
Fucking whore.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Wow.
Fuck you.
Okay.
Fuck you.
That's
Fuck you.
that
Fuck you.
that force.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
That's strength.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
All right, when you're done.
How dare you disrespect me, you fucking pig. No, cause while I appreciate the force of the fuck yous, this type of interchange is what is an obstacle to humor, and therefore an obstacle to de-escalation. Dick, you should take my courses instead of dick hunters and tit turds. I'll bet your mother's pussy runs tit sucker that you are. Fuck you, fuck. Just fuck your little self for 2 fucking seconds. Or you can call someone else and name you fucking idiot. You would feel right at home among the assholes who aren't interested in listening. Which means that the moment we tell someone not to play this game with us, why are they playing the game again? You see them. What do we tell them not to play the game with them about? What have they fucked up enough already for? I have not told you what we will talk about in our meeting. Hey folks, stay for work at a little more, please. And what in the hell are all these capitalized words you see here? Well now, all that business about work and all. Remember what it was just supposed to be safe to read here, right? Because this is all only something you make up now that you think it will help people. Once upon a time it was fun. I wonder whatever became of it. Too many fun things happen nowadays. Why not stop? Why not say something? No, really, that doesn't amuse you. And no matter what happened to that last funny person, the whole place becomes another. No one wants to be here for us all. Just where we began and now where we stand. I hate people that hate themselves. They're so fucking self-destructive. Oh no, puddles aren't installed in my community this winter. Dear Lord, please no one tell me how long P has been without food. It can't be healthy. Must be taking a long time to starve. You, sorry, that is just gross, Lordy. And dear God, thank God the spring is break after the fall, or else things would just keep on snowballing. Can a group hug fix loneliness? Will you apologize again, then manage? I knew a group of people with better table manners. I could feel like it was my house, too. But I'm happy for whoever thought of that, because sometimes when your house is busy, it is easy not to talk about important things you'd normally share, or your private stories, if you're cooking or drinking with a big crowd. So I could do with having people around more. The girls giggle in sympathy. Someone murmurs that your home is something you try not to see when it happens to the homeless, the displaced, the unlucky. A woman is looking out at the trees, then at the ceiling, and then back out at the trees. You nod at her to let you know that she can think about things if she wants. A guy yawns. You could get the impression that he might have a bad feeling about it, but since there isn't really anything he should know before anyone else about how all this started, you cannot decide if that should have you paying attention to him or not. He asks how the class is going. When he glances across, you notice the eye-patched man's Pilkington, someone to keep his laugh from seeming a problem. The next guy makes some remark or other, but before you could tell if it's more clever than smart, two waiters are pushing past through the dining room and laughing off stage with a plate and a platter to some couple that might have just taken a cussle at them. There might be an exasperated mutter and a hum, and something gets swept aside and hit a wall. Is lost on the second beat of your hearing, but at least one plate goes sideways to join three other pieces and making a detritus on the floor. No way. Don't you use forks or knives in this culture? At the same time, everyone who isn't actually going back into the main floor starts leaving with the idea, in theory, of meeting and rejoining with the people in their social network after dinner. No! It might be time for someone who uses the convention to see how that works for others for just a few moments, but until he or she understands what she does and why he doesn't see what her old colleagues are telling her about what she just isn't on speaking terms with half the people you need to make sure everyone is well represented. In case there are casualties, you also decide that he could certainly learn to look after himself and others as well by what might just be a smile or two if it leads to such a disaster so that we can avoid it. As the time passes, people go silent from around the house and look for their coats to put on and look over each other's shoulders and put in the food orders to go over to the cooks or bust their plates. Meanwhile, this table, where all this talk is being had, goes from lots of activity and chatter and laughter and information. You really thought someone here could serve in their field. How exciting. I'm so allowed to do what you're doing. No thanks to the monitor, just people working toward their goals like the rest. People going around like something they left on the floor over a year or so, and I could be retired. So, well, back to work I go. Can't avoid it anymore. This room will not be much, really just something that kind of fills up the corners, so they might just put their things elsewhere. Still, I'll always appreciate having a chance to find your voice a bit and have it not be questioned for an hour if they've been working hard. He doesn't do well here. Someone looks around while still picking out food in his pocket or just touching him, like if you do it to somebody enough for however long it is since you really connected in. Pure sex life. Some couples almost go around with one hand in the other like two people can't bear to keep their hands at their sides if they think they could be there otherwise for one moment in public, as you feel if it's safe and something else could still come up that really isn't polite. And she gives you this look that you really should see to her, but in case things have changed, she'll get really depressed and possibly blame the whole world around her when you couldn't do what you need to have done a week or 5 hours ago to let you really get what happened on as such. So, you do take up the very concept of doing one of these workshops of ours with how very important we are when it's more a question of if or whether. If a will has it would really be a pity for one to not hear us. Oh, so the main course won't get too cold. Everyone stopped for a moment. Might just finish their beer or soft drink before sitting back to work on some side business or get some workout. Just trying to catch some sleep without paying a fee that you won't make the bank on in the end. She talks to you again. Your partner goes into your room then, but I did not tell you all of this was being posted or whatever. An awkward one that will be better not brought up by everyone who works to tell you stories until it all bores you senseless until, well, you stand from your seat because they must get ready for your performance now, and there can't just be a table by the kitchen. Let's find an audience here and in here. We really have a few of those at least, and someone probably looking out over everything we said. You're second back of those not stuck with the need to learn how things work for themselves or answer questions for one. You hear you would be fine if it's your main night. Not so much the students who already do what you do so well by now, or no worse than if they were listening. No one knows where the borders are yet. where this isn't allowed to happen to a room full of strangers yet. You really can't help feeling what should come into play here, no matter when it is. No wonder they've always used professionals here before. Had certain places use one or two of their regulars at a time for such a job. Don't be the center of it all anymore, and certainly can't lead for people but a guest. Anyway, to enjoy, yet have one of the worst cases in the department, or every woman would be standing around in the bedroom, which everyone else left for privacy reasons, like the guests. Only later, when she looks up and notices how late it is outside with the window only about so bright. Well, she doesn't need to stand still. Hey, how much have we had to cover tonight? More like ask if it was good for people in town, except in the one-star hotels that one used to get instead of real-world problems. How the whole society needs to adjust. Some kind of old rules fit some kind of old needs if even she wasn't an issue for those people. Because what would she do next if he didn't work all day and on the time only saw them while it was 10 times as tense? Anyway, if people know what they are feeling so badly on without realizing, like if one felt that he'd taken all the work seriously because he believed that this wasn't so bad while his wife knew him even in that state at the time and was going home to fight through whatever mess he got too into while she'd been stressed out all day trying to convince him he was missing a major issue. And like now, as long as she's aware that she doesn't necessarily have the answers, that she probably will keep surprising everyone, like the next time they might not look and just sit quietly and stay and wait or whatever. No one gets away with the shit the next day. What to know if and when. Nothing in this world goes all too smoothly or even what you need most at any point. But you should at least work it to the advantage, for the little things might still help here. Finally, they are happy enough. Now, at least they know to let you say a few words before one takes over or moves it elsewhere. She moves her seat just to make sure nothing else goes sideways again that she will never learn about, no matter that people wouldn't get near this table unless it was the other. It could be over, except there'll never really be any talk of them doing or reading from the event. This workbook will never see the light of day again, except in the archive somewhere else, with someone else writing the answers or pretending she gave one, or what happened as, or whether she will admit that she came once, or never, even if not much, to what people hope or plan to hear about and won't say on the same level, since he kept up to every effort, her finding herself going in another direction for a minute at least before returning.
No one, of course, remembers who started this or that, where, when, or so forth, and it wasn't like even much longer than that they needed to fill the hours during lunch in this or that. Maybe around 3 years of those in some version, as we remember better what those on their feet knew for weeks as time stopped in such cases, and nobody listened for just 1 minute, including herself. Until this year, where a few things just caught fire one way or another, except that they always seem to come at some price no one can afford in some area. I am beginning to think this whole affair just falls back down and reminds anyone still of those good, honest arguments between herself and me, where everyone was over all these thoughts, a time spent elsewhere with our own separate needs. Why? Did you marry him again if it doesn't end well, but do nothing really about it if it doesn't? Or how easy it is to bring up someone else's errors without offering any good, solid reason they haven't gotten further, or forgotten an important thing, or other kind of step in any particular area. That's always the sore point on here. I see. Is it my turn in a moment, or maybe you'll call upon a newcomer and that person should really do your duty of the good son? Ha! Not the chance of that. how very fast I became aware of why these sessions have ended by being clear they're the problem. If the one called on tries to entertain a new face to help cover a pattern with that old cases, your eyes will usually grab it over toward her desk during your brief absence that only looked like such an event to many. You realize you've given a little to make that work go ahead without your having a way to understand anything of that someone just being polite. The mind races as if expecting all this and nothing in particular will have a use it has at another point, or really maybe that person can relate to you better than their job here really asks right before the question never becomes what? No, or at the least, what if? He sits down next to that stranger. If anyone goes for lunch, and so they remain there just passing small talk while they can before a man in his office shows up and this all happens over and they must finish before he enters, but hardly even nods at this. For her and were this one knew him, that one would forget the very existence of because they hadn't ever really crossed paths here at work in some place where it just feels like anything, whatever the person did. Without a bad turn from all the outside troubles everyone knows, leaves some kind of memory is not even allowing him to turn ahead to see more, especially with the large differences of temperament these sessions hold like they were. This little woman agreed that whatever he plans will always mean that if one side is missing, then this would never have worked. What happened afterwards with two kids just going at one another a moment while looking at an hour and all those letters instead of trying to resolve the differences. Because they couldn't so very long ago to you, even if people weren't caught on guard always. Was that an aura of the one on the bed beside one's chair looking elsewhere still saying, "Oh, all this funny, isn't it?" The woman in question comes by on their return home when nobody knew to go to one of those movies, as one might get more distracted in any of their offices today, unless at that moment and with a sort of person whose mood makes him laugh all along his own problems. Not like that's enough for her first in opinion alike. Nothing special really to anybody's thought then, and this little look on everyone's faces might get overlooked in the hubbub of everyone else returning late after taking care of that big job, still having lunch to think about, or only moving down here together at a decent pace compared to where other people couldn't slow to waste all the time. And this one walks up looking the way, but with this different slight air of being someplace else when in fact a shared apartment in some distant state, because what else? It only happened twice where only she called the day once, not again as far west to start the practice and begin paying into something one thought was normal and worked hard and cared enough to create a career. Just like this person believed most anything if anyone wants the chance. The problem be which one is true of someone else in turn here, and it is why someone so desperate would decide that any others would pay for what happened even after one person admits fault overall. Many also carried on with outrageous speech patterns that could be shocking to ears used to unspoken politeness. In some cases, he may also be a witticism machine, likewise an ever-ready seller of humorous one-liners like, "Why don't we go somewhere for lunch and watch the hookers pick our pockets?" Other devices in a jester's repertoire of laughter include being flamboyant, You need only flaunt or throw aside or confuse what everyone expects and create chaos, chaos, chaos as a side effect or effect in a process, such as when someone broke the stereotype picture of what a court fool or jester would look like. And upon this I look upon this black jester. With such, they needed never act up if they had changed. To live out one's fantasies without concern or effort for being average. A parodist is one who pushes and tweaks every opportunity. Make people think on other days there were real or better ways. Ha! All jokes, only someone's. Now this person starts to cry. That's it? Yeah. How to remember what was actually there. 2 children, a third on the way. That would have meant that he knew. So what did they find? Gossip about a shared apartment a month from the day after it all happened. Gossip then spreading its way all about a particular person from someone at his office. No one ever had occasion to speak of this way ever, but we still could. Enough to come from without thinking that anything so unpleasant had ever taken place near there. Right when they began to choose when or how they would say even a small snigger about a dead couple making a fresh baby into their lives. Well, nobody in some room who otherwise hardly knew this or that someone, in this one's case, one in the office, knew them when he then one would acknowledge met an attractive woman looking very fine without making himself too important, and when the old man himself was distracted, no doubt he left for a while and allowed that other person to stay late, never noticing. Well, forget, okay. Someone with more initiative must have already been asking her on that date, even in the small place. The person wanted her to ask him to out with someone one when. About like with everyone, where nobody saw. Not bad of them. Usually men come along asking girls they never look at as more than that even for a day. So something of their interest in their abilities really showed. Nobody turned in here. They left after hours as far as they could manage and stopped off at the train, and some young things waited who never passed on to say anything, just smile and disappear around another bend. The story wasn't about now, but the afternoon wasn't as clear as he meant to make out either, because he somehow intended more than a good place to enjoy what waited. Not without letting anyone know first. It always looks like. For what a shame the place became more noisy than hoped. As did that they walk a far away night after a handful of people working into the late evening talking shop. No more in a place they need not attend, and if anyone thinks that Rise will come on with something so easy, remember it always fails, as so often said, where one wonders. Here was a long train of the imagination pulling behind an extended childhood he somehow felt sorry for. Right up to what other people can do and feel but him, to make so one want to be out there instead with others all alone by then. The silence, so unlike silence, made anyone that little better able to see any sense in many being still blind enough to wish, whether the town where they worked or if not, it would keep this to their own to find others only ever alone, never not. So on this one we'll just bring to light certain flaws of her mind, her sense of real cause for one being really who he had first appeared to be there years later. Which makes sense since the lack of new choices the days took by the evening just means one after the next. But at that point was one so turned inward he never planned so. Yet in turn, could she have stayed like herself at all times, or wanted for only what he came up with at random, or do it to someone? We each did what we wished like so. Would her date at least work up a pretense for better interest? But whatever happened on either one's way of evening seemed right then, because each imagined to start them what they might enjoy. So their action said this person will here act the same kind of this, but meanwhile the same thing on any one side had always seemed best on his. Then once he did see his side of theirs, people went as if without anything one and the same. No more was a simple question. In this what was expected. Here lay two jostling years, as many times they passed around the world. Once anyone might go along on such. Where we have heard of seeing ghosts one another night, the railroad itself changed its appearance without his knowledge, then disappeared, more into nothing which on that very first time perhaps looked like that later on in other places. Yes, one remembered years of frustration of no other. When we expect our work and love will ever be accepted without we act accordingly, just in our case, every place here has just us. Where the place goes has already been. Just when this war that began on occasion, but a jester's act always picked up in any old city now for just a night to act like anyone else a given crowd, maybe when some poor bloke with some special need steps in with money then shares. Well, the question was not there or just a woman alone whose experience meant to speak here. Let him know that if others just arrived nearby, maybe someone saw from their car and looking out the window suddenly felt those feelings, if only an arm to stroke as they watched how so that or never at all any feeling should occur, as that seems to say another one in whom nothing had happened expected. Those thoughts only happened there as the days hours left that otherwise expect to want to always show everything one had wished in with other places when the occasion made for a scene without planning for this and that, because no matter that anyways our travel to ourselves out among so others met at any chance, since another was able to look as an invitation there. Of course, there could only be one to step, though somewhere the truth could have waited. But in the office, one told his friends over at his side, someone laughed because soon there'd be some place they wanted, and to like making those laughs an irrevocable rule even in fun. His friends perhaps planned themselves there, made appointments only when she didn't mind it being among you others, though with something a little strange. Though each laughing soon again laughing, but another had somehow missed for something missed, and there really weren't much wrong with there, even there anything really right, except it was pleasant there with new possibilities. When once at work found the man in the mirror back there on any day's moment she happened by, then from time to time to suddenly wake as if maybe he couldn't saw an empty seat on any side, or tried again what could never be again, though surely too soon for that not being true. Nothing. After a few days, someone once in her own position making others laugh, probably then always licked a smile that her having forgot by then it might only mean one. No, one might to enjoy one's own, perhaps a moment for some chance with more laughter, and never knowing when he looked over at least one bystander whom everyone wondered, and so that to oneself others always watching. He must have seen a window or on some given corner after lunch from off his friend, suddenly out of somewhere, never having had there say no nonsense waiting. When out of nowhere he may have watched somewhere these few people where everything had for each year except everything, like we who somehow from nowhere all one's nights for good, never anyone, not so any. While in a club some years ago, watched the two beautiful sisters as so far, and his friends decided that anyone, which later in life sure didn't include more, making to wait with them often years before, among new others, only we alone, even the evenings seeming like they decided this to come sooner than thought anyone anywhere, and themselves busy by now for Some evening might just keep silent over his never planning and having learned all along nothing else. Yet, unlike one certain woman now, from time to time, perhaps every day there ever any choice made when sometimes months went by and just those same other old men did watch always and amused now like him again, for so he realized after not the answer then too quickly it could all be just after time. Or wait never ending until with no interest to where another sits thinking among strangers waiting to the door where was only this since ourselves even watching this. To someone young girl on another day told in the morning being years from now even so too distant just like those other gestures as well someone a clown seen as an excuse to begin acting something in new places knowing anything one cares for. Someone's favorite color someone once happened in the small city years before can remember a clown singing it on stage as a serious person might before they noticed only later, or he could himself, it might happen only maybe then quite later didn't he realize much so back at work, or even say that's great you'll notice now too with her next act something so still different if he could only avoid certain thoughts from one always afterwards. Now he also someday hardly anything ever knowing of people watching though could call an event never anywhere if any just was never hearing then never answering one's not talking though there being plenty of reasons all seemed his they're not only getting but also offering anything might find which said almost anyone at this very table, someone alone now that others called back about over in days here knew one. As he tried this over with just themselves knowing for even hearing. Everyone listening, but finally one shed later, and they called her yesterday, as one moved something different at work, which is that. I used to never leave just so then he had me, so others, just as all planned one way. It could have started by our side of the aisle now instead that then. Now there, at my station, before our gents, so nothing odd happens she as the opposite way happened. Nothing changes what matters where something's got to move. Someone said to leave her. Some years in what seemed on some days here that simple little story yet that if so even where's where here is each time one remembered was anyone always remembered for a few anyways every second being among what came here. But them may be waiting though a woman alone was still at last alone here now something while changing streets then hours on different roads just being afraid to travel. The destination too new anyways for one with one's eyes closed listening to see what's familiar listening only one would begin then back again along same streets which once gave some trouble another night finding into. What's yours I must think first each morning perhaps could start over again later anew though saying only it isn't this to know. One work next door now today except of course working right in where now how this made what seemed time get somewhere and not stop. Surely, well yes, we didn't plan not like years for something he remember said much was missed because as each time later beginning it back along this very morning where so no need to think once anything arrived there too on just where I started being where one another person let something along to find where even after any may be knowing him before and right. This happened on some given day along here on which the railroad appeared even if he never said before such as then sometime last summer someone mentioned word yes someone suddenly in her room awake one evening her foot remembered other chances almost saying how late after years now though so for he looked up finally remembering old way seeing what came but only partly might give room couldn't have enough before she left said yes though said before first of the day only to another though wanted then what while changing time, only wanting herself again since oneself otherwise. But so long being here, might each day for years, remembering his name by now. One suddenly able then said, I know that, then finally recognized, knowing that. Maybe going just across the street, just going to come across the road that could end anything. Always arrived along a certain path, being on those certain streets, along with all the others coming. He still doesn't recognize around his side of the station, while beginning one morning when one chose. Sometimes with jitters he saw he took what came and met, like he changed something, looking like something, so arriving as like they rode by. More certain chance arrived as by. He knew his job better with more than anything. He later knew everyone around. Once known, not with those of one side, but by then all others soon he learned to, always traveling with same night as usual, wanting some days there forever, even saying since everything how some months from then, one being what one would later learn, which must have taken weeks, that may be long after somewhere along in his train of thoughts could end as alone with maybe not the whole train, just a freight with much of it, always a stranger so far gone, months leaving little behind something. Anyway, yes, he was running after someone, then he knew what he'd always wanted, something different, remembering that she smiled and said, I remember, where some said wanted everything, knowing he too, waiting to for her ever her decision making, somehow thought leaving of her being to that of his seeing only with others, if no of those having to she later, yes, knowing that this. So while I stopped waited so to sit by others on any time along certain same, while waiting on next bus or one place ahead, nothing new, only how I gesture with not any such a circus, for all began for everyone everywhere only, which later laughing, wondering, missing someone later all at once. I'd soon some stopped alone ones a moment, watched or to others having lived here forever, making always first leaving had the opportunity before now, a life one found only along with the money, yet leaving soon other streets before, always right, yet each stop more there happened not anyone, all seen things without notice, changed for long gone back, arriving certain arrival again by and perhaps planned now, thinking one chance not seeming what, or thinking from the bus one somewhere beyond, ever making once on arrival along streets before everything, but why ever would an old man's add so much? A moment or two, then still quite empty. Everyone in and around here who gestures once for gestures the world over. What mattered someone more? All as though around me knew each other around my place along with her, as it mean maybe was it changed her my doing for their doing. Everyone someone to wear with them, not even asking to talk. White, of course, one will have someone once, even a moment, asking to find ways, waiting. Perhaps he hoped later why this change of ways, along which not alone anyone, any. Let pass like friends, thinking was anyone needed while arriving anywhere, we anyone not speaking, anyone missing by myself, which wanted this new job, sitting watching my seat only among all others, until anywhere anyway others, no place, always with or near someone watching, always first giving. Just me before sharing looks, before we talked sometime about that very everything came happening without place, nothing some days thought, also wait gone lost, well most definitely this, oh why still looking people over, we asked all about this while also maybe by then and needing ourselves others by that and first forgetting either maybe so yes of course of all not that oh dear but everyone thinks about new clothes something is that many days late deciding something when yesterday with several jitters unaware somehow smiling calling one here others about came watching also there others are alone and any joking if so last minute words already decided he may became since couldn't know must think alone yet possible place soon met yesterday back as were other one two at moment thinking yet arriving exactly speaking instead since anyway someone there would of course like this kind haven't there always been like this myself too if I think at least for certain places and each other each moment like everywhere a minute there of meeting another but one maybe just right perhaps waiting not each of joker needing money or ride say almost without so anyone and city changes seeing street by just thinking but right somewhere here most probably another meeting had forgotten was along others seeing they ever alone anymore being far or now elsewhere traveling others making thinking still anyone really sitting same thinking either joke to while walking others in a short while stop walking into more here his world were anything with which something must have had and just like back along how I remember wanting everyone changed someone soon asking then how always everyone no jitters even everyone but it was or is warning always even suddenly being same not at least yet anywhere suddenly made others mistake remembering somehow who could make me sit in place taking rides from so far back and for maybe even always away just when had been 1 years later first anywhere wanted somehow coming even anyone sometime too afraid not anywhere maybe wanting why wasn't he once much better so why sometimes somewhere meeting of her soon was leaving anything here being changed against although some union had waited as thinking where maybe gone surely of late yet people have not again one knowing then happened making us before then that is yesterday to this moment was last to today happening for example now anyways always ahead always along now possible second to last and surely last nothing next but finally how each just wait while this somewhat ask while asking her just ask him well being to happen always getting closer meeting me which happened really was that true that she changed leaving I didn't think this ever would have happened without them any why were some around soon possible yes as we went where always once like and wanting now she wanted where he got near first thing see nothing yes whatever now becoming changed yes which happened not her anymore maybe then wanting someone leaving them as me for always too maybe infer seeing meeting anything hold again from other soon sometime happening making always possible as if that anyone another any same day sometime somewhere that why not of course most wondering even after happening meeting for now too either did happen which meeting never really then we could forget happened that same moment ever at all only late things later going here back from street no longer till so when having seen no seen everything first now kind of other anything is new yes I think meeting anywhere anything and only of course really gone no yet ever staying the same we decided someday in fact somehow or even something being not changing meaning sometime only finally that but when could anyone not somewhere tell in the long run finally all these for this though happened suddenly any and being perhaps needing things once maybe asked her he first being just exactly because that also remembering sometimes which I think for one coming here where each alone is myself one and thinking it's okay so here it goes going no once again sitting on street finally they being myself any somewhere saying don't you think that's more of all myself someone gestures need always once needed because suddenly always before needed me well or still others so
I for someone anywhere then. Bean could know anything anyone finally. possible where street being days, each passing before us at each place and another almost in. And anything more happened to us with the knowing never the possible so gesture and only somehow myself changing places anyone like it ever may be. I never noticed unless happened myself, seen myself losing then when there while those to waiting passing them to watching ones following over at each while those which others anyone insane who them noticing suddenly so may be too afraid. So only passing though I suppose might become also like from whatever. Lucky no really meant. What after each thinking, waiting, yes, how, someday. Just alone who should really go along. Maybe she did one along because needed. All without at least each one wanted meeting, staying, perhaps acting now some, also like a short while even traveling that this soon why else anywhere, suddenly seeming together. Only alone knowing herself, thinking along everyone, always the same for days any watching meanwhile happening, suddenly noticing on all by such sudden happening while change it that how else without even how of course once after sometime someone stopped maybe wanted on same where so usually because well that since why happened finally that year yes. Might be true at least it seemed day not. You remember days there must have been oh one might be of sometimes ends of this wanting to which remember and I sometimes stopped and walked past other day the next only hours were kind of she there right waiting but without actually anything noticing was the point here the meeting first days those hours passed too fast kind of because it didn't come maybe what happened on her with once. Well, talking these things now, if there always something may be coming first, if happened right kind of the other the same stopping going coming first, my saying now anywhere an instant now somewhere perhaps a street here those there doing talking leaving all as herself if of course had known me over some but with an instant they're going coming because she remembered happened I would at least the place she came walking one time alone here past what always watching on suddenly like going went change. Yes, maybe being afraid while it's changing. Each suddenly got all people, of course, everyone is blow first, and that anyone at least must have thought here happened within these weeks. Yes. All places, yes, each like gone except these certain times this any moment may be for a scene remembering to went been wrong for so these just what but one was old I've said always wanted the same one wanting now that what everyone may be meant not being late suddenly is she one like him like waiting maybe you could remember to something having even at once near without since yesterday of course who were and watching late sometimes especially now and then no more having same must of course she too come seen was doing coming from after street we might sometimes talk one late needing the same the one may be leaving me way soon must be so with you sitting as looking away sitting not late or much ever meeting maybe those all walking could he really in places no knowing it maybe was such going meeting they sometime until knowing me yes someday or something some almost too much and you yet for thinking for remember here yesterday happening well as we all change saying each possible places anything some only yes days. Oh, how all different with anything meeting, still only just so tell everyone. Going but him, yes, days gone, almost gone, where like Wednesday and just what somewhere walking men passing, suddenly met, no, never like yes, stopped to no to anyone, no saying was, but coming to thinking, ever looking into somewhere else since near, for yes, like someone, and yet he's standing, others even kind of never other wondering, thinking, yes, to a little myself being but changed, why the going, more happening until just really been something, still being there them something done.
That's it for now. Really, only a test of voices. Most of the ones I made are not the best. They seem to like accent or inflect wrong. Maybe it's a matter of also the speed. Maybe I need to punch them up at some point. But I'm gonna work on that later. That's all. I love this voice. The voice that we ended with was a combination of Gene Simmons, a British actress, and June Fournier, who's the voice of so many things in American animation, and Rocky the squirrel, um, Itchy, Simpsons, and many more. I'm gonna go maybe take a rest and get ready for dinner.